I think good science happens when people actually deeply care about the work they're doing and the impact that it's having on the world. The Missouri Prevention Science Institute started as a very organic process of people coming together who were all passionate about similar things. But our original passion that brought everyone together was around kids' mental health and well-being.
So basically what prevention science is finding risk factors that we know if we don't change them will lead to negative outcomes for youth or adults. So for instance, if a child is demonstrating early aggressive behavior, what we know is often those children are rejected by their peers, they're rejected by their teachers, which leads to academic failure, which leads to later conduct problems, delinquency. And so there's just a trajectory that we know that if we just fixed that risk factor, intervened with that, we could prevent all those negative things that happen to those children.
And prevention science is a field that had developed in the 1990s and really has as its focus changing population health, so solving big world problems by bringing science to bear. And it's really interdisciplinary. It brings public health people together with psychologists and people in medicine, because the idea is that if we're going to solve big world problems, you need a lot of smart people at the table.
There's only a few places that really focus on prevention science. It is unique that it's here at MU. It's nowhere else in Missouri.
So I think the single program I'm most excited about is the School Mental Health Coalition, and that is because it systematically screens youth multiple times a year from multiple perspectives to both identify problems, but identify them in a way that makes them solvable for schools.
So we work in partnership with our schools, developed our own screener with items that they were interested in, things that we know lead to significant mental health problems if they're not intervened with.
We've created a screener that schools actually use, they want to use, and have been using for nearly a decade now.
We call it the teacher checklist. It's really, really quick. It's easy for them to do, it's feasible, and it helps to identify kids really quickly.
Teachers can screen an entire classroom of 20 kids in just 10 minutes.
I've worked in schools where we've done screening. This is not that long ago, but paper and pencil. Every kid had a form. Teachers would complete it, set it aside. This is pretty automatic. People complete it electronically. They press a button and they say, hey, show me all the kids who need support around sadness or feeling hopeless. And it's literally like, click, and there are your students. They're your school's needs.
We also have students report on their own behaviors starting in 3rd grade. And that's important because we're trying to detect kids who might be experiencing internalizing problems, which are anxiety and depression. And teachers aren't quite as good at detecting those issues because they're kind of internal to the student.
And I think back to when I was in high school and I was this kid who needed to be noticed, needed help, and I wasn't. And not because people didn't care or didn't know, but because there wasn't a system in place and because I wasn't yelling out for attention.
Rather than comparing youth in our county to national norms, we compare it to local norms. And so risk is defined by relative risk to kids in your school. And that is important because when we use national norms, especially in schools that have challenges, that they tend to identify problems that exist in a way that schools aren't equipped to handle.
If there's high level of students reporting risk in a certain area, then it doesn't make sense to intervene with one kid at a time.
If half the kids in your building are struggling with organization problems, attention problems, we can't put every kid on Ritalin or give them individual therapy. We don't have the resources to do that. Instead, we would have schools say, hey, this is a school problem, so how can we deliver a curriculum, say organizational skill development curriculum, to all kids in our building? We could do it through the classroom on a regular basis and not just assume that this is a mental health issue, it is a skill development issue. Too often we situate mental health problems inside the person, inside the brain usually. We all know it's intuitive that mental health is what happens to us. It's our relationships, it's our success or failures, it's how people respond to us. And if we're not attending to those aspects of kids' lives, we're not going to change their mental health.
We're entering our 9th year of working with our Boone County schools. And in the beginning, when we started using the screener, it was new. There were questions, there were hesitancies about it. But when the information that was brought forth and teachers and schools were able to see, wow, I can get this information for free and it will help me do my job better, which is ultimately supporting kids. felt like a no-brainer.
We're confident in the benefits of the approaches we've been applying in this county because we have all of these data streams that we've collected over the many years since we've been implementing.
Yeah, so one of the exciting things is we've been in Boone County schools for the past 8 years. The CDC for the past 10 years has shown that high school students' report of feeling sad or hopeless has actually increased, and our data is completely the opposite. So our students are reporting less sadness and less hopelessness over time. That's pretty cool. It's really important for us to keep this free because we want to reach as many youth and schools as we possibly can. A lot of our rural schools are very low resource schools, and they are able to use the screener because it's free.
Many schools are still working on effectively screening for academic needs. In fact, most schools without a screener depend on teachers telling a counselor or a mental health professional, here are the students that need support.
I truly am most excited about the future, to see the work that we've developed here and to see how we can share it to any school and community that wants it in the next 5 to 10 years.
The future and where we would like to take it is to be able to disseminate some of the work that we're doing at a much bigger scale. Yeah, I think if we don't expand or continue the work that we're doing in school mental health, we're going to lose a generation of youth who are experiencing severe mental health problems.
There's a craving for this information by schools. They see a ton of youth who are struggling. They don't know what to do about it. They know it's interfering with the task of schooling, which is, educating children. I struggle with the fact that we have not been able to share it as widely, as fastly as we wanted to, because I think it's going to be valuable and helpful for so many educators and students across the country.